All right, and we are live, so I'm just going to wait for somebody to come in here and let me know how the sound's going. In the meantime, I'm going to finish setting everything else up. Here we go. Right. And when there's somebody in here, let me know how the sound's going. Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. Okay. So we will go ahead and get started then. I will, of course, give some time for some other people to roll in here, and we're going to just go ahead and set everything else up. So, yes, this is going to be another Coffee of the Month live stream where we help pick out a Coffee of the Month. Hello, Kali, and hello, Nathan. So, hello to both of you that are currently in here, and hello to anybody else that does join. So, the way that this works is I'm going to go through the suggestions that we had on Instagram first. Of course, we asked the question yesterday as to what coffees or coffee roasters you guys suggest and recommend. And then from there, we're going to take any sort of comments and feedback and see. I think the camera keeps auto focusing. Let me see if I can fix that. I think that's a little. Hello, Victoria, as well. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share the screen here real quick. Good morning to Coffee with OIF Brewer as well. Let's see here. And then I know I need to go back and forth to get this to start sharing. And there we go. Okay, perfect. So the first coffee that was suggested to us was anything from Botz by Taco with Nacho. So let's go ahead and take a look. So it's actually anything with Botz from their upcoming release. And I think that the only way to see what's coming on their upcoming release is from their Instagram page. But let's see. There's, of course, my review right there. And here are the coffees that Bots is releasing. So this is actually very interesting because it's released on the 13th, I believe. I think that they notified us that it's going to be released on, I guess that would be Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. So in order for this to be our coffee of the month, we would need to post a poll today so that it has a chance to win. And then by tomorrow, we can purchase the coffee. We can get there before other people purchase the coffee because I imagine a lot of these coffees are going to sell out pretty quick. So let's take a look at what we do have. And this is going to go along the lines of some other suggestions we had on this month as well. So I'm probably going to rule out any of those Colombian coffees, especially since there are quite a few pink bones and we've already reviewed so many of them this year. But outside of that, we do have a couple of natural processed coffees. I believe that all of those Ethiopian coffees might be natural, maybe not the Karamo, but the other ones definitely sound pretty natural to me. So I'm gonna say that Ma how do you say it? Mate Matiwos and the, 2K Ute are both options, especially if we do go with a non-washed Ethiopian theme, so that's going to be a pretty good option, and Nathan says it's mate, right? Or it's mate? I assume it's mate, but that would be probably our top pick, and since we did a Panamanian coffee for our coffee of the month last month, I don't think we'll do either of those 2 Panamanian coffees, so I would most likely add probably that Altieri coffee. Maybe the Dunkin' lot actually, because that one has a Baja Blast note. So apologies real quick. It looks like we have some background sirens for a second. It gives me a chance to take a very quick look at these coffees. Oh, right here it describes what these coffees are. So the Cramo is washed, and that's what I kind of assumed. And then the rest of the coffees, it looks like natural with the exception of those Colombian coffees, which I assumed were going to be probably some sort of washed iteration. More background sirens. All right. Yeah, that's Dunkin' lot sounds pretty interesting. Between these two, which would you guys actually suggest? See here. Excited for bots review. Haven't had one in a while. I'm actually working on some bots reviews and I finished recording them pretty recently. So I'm a little backed up on the reviews that we do have. I imagine that I'm going to do another week where we release a review every single week just so we can get caught up and release those bots reviews as well. So that's actually coming up. And that's the only reason why I'm a little hesitant on getting another bots coffee. The sirens are really loud. Okay, Dunkin' interests me too. It's a really interesting coffee, truth be told. All right, let's see what other suggestions that we do have for right now. So, keeping that in mind, if we're going with a natural Ethiopian theme, then that's probably what we're going to go with. All right, so Kyle Wheeler says something from Regalia, and we have not reviewed Regalia in a very long time. I think it was last year, actually. All right, let's see what coffees they do have. And I feel like month after month we keep going back to Regalia, but we're having difficulty finding something that's either going to win our coffee of the month poll or anything in general. So again, the Ngise Nare, we've reviewed the Ngise Nare from a couple of coffee roasters. Actually, that's one of the ones that we're reviewing from Botz coming up. But it would be nice to compare. I still haven't necessarily heard the best things about this Ngise Nare yet. Let's see what else we have. And then this one I know did pretty well in the Ethiopian Cup of Excellence, at least this location. So those are both options. They've both been around for a while. I know that this Honduran coffee is their most recent release, so that's an interesting one if we're going with that theme. I would be kind of surprised if we did take a very quick look at this Kenyan coffee. I feel like this one's been around for a little bit too. And it's washed SL 28 and 34. I would like to try this coffee. Honestly, I'd like to try some more things from Regalia. It's just been tricky getting them to win one of our coffee of the month polls. They featured in quite a few of them this year. They just have not won. All right, so we'll keep we'll keep an eye on that. I think maybe if we're kind of desperate for a natural Ethiopian, then we might go for one of these two. I believe this one's also a natural. Yeah. The thing about that is we won't have a difficult time finding natural processed Ethiopian coffees if that's the theme that we're going to go with. All right, let's see what else we have. And then next up, we have one half from, how do you say that? HAHU PEP 96. So let's take a look at one half. And one half is kind of interesting for a lot of reasons. For anybody that's not aware, Works is actually going to be doing a one half drop this upcoming month. Not this one, but the one after. And I am going to be purchasing coffees from them. I can't remember which one they have for their drop specifically, but I think it's going to be their non-washed offering is going to be from their drop. All right, let's see what we do have. We are going to be picking up some coffees from One Half. So if you're looking for some One Half reviews, then they're probably not going to be featured in our Coffee of the Month poll because we are going to be reviewing some of their coffees here in the near future. But let me see if they have anything new that hasn't been on my radar up to this point. So they do have, this is an interesting one. Uh, Mix between a Catuai and a Típica Mejorado coffee from Juan Peña. And then we have another one also from Juan Peña and a Sidra. Let's see here. These Bolivian coffees are interesting to me as well. And I think if I remember correctly, they do have this is the coffee that I actually wanted to focus on right here for anybody that's not seen it. And if you've been looking at what Airworks is offering, then they do have this in a 20-gram dose. I think it's pretty expensive. It's I want to say I don't want to guess, but I think it's like $40 or so. It's a very expensive coffee, and it's the Longboard Windy Ridge coffees, and these ones in general are just very very expensive. We're actually going to see this coffee one more time throughout the stream, but I really wanted to purchase this coffee. It was just even out of my price range. I'm not sure what the conversion is on this one, but I remember it being very, very expensive to get what I wanted was 200 grams. So regardless, one half is a coffee roaster that we're going to be featuring here in the near future. We've actually had some suggestions for them in general. I'm just taking a quick look to see if they have anything new that I haven't seen yet. And Lost Origin, I think neither of these were washed if I remember correctly. It would be possible to maybe add one of their naturals to our coffee of the month poll if that's the direction we decided to go, mostly because I could kind of tack that on to any sort of order that we might place with one half. So it's not necessarily out of the question yet. Maybe look at Airworks one-off offerings as coffee of the month. Yeah, that's an option too. Why don't we take a look at Airworks website while we're at it too? I've yet to hear anyone in my coffee circle share about longboard coffee because no one can afford it. That is so true. And I really want to purchase one just so I can review it, but those coffees are really, really expensive. And since I don't have any familiarity with one half, it's also kind of tricky purchasing a coffee from a coffee roaster I don't know and saying how that coffee turns out. Let's take a look at what Airworks has. And real quick, what I'm drinking today, because I need a sip of coffee, I'm drinking the Wilder Garcia, a washed Peruvian geisha from Bell Lane Coffee Roasters out of Mullingar, Ireland. I'm not going to be reviewing this coffee, but it will be featured in a blind taste test video here in the near future. All right. And if I do have one grievance about Airworks, it's I am not the best at navigating their website. Let's see here. So I'm wondering if it's maybe on the shop here. Nope. All right. Coffee drops. Oh, it's probably under pre-sales, isn't it? Okay. I work so closely with Jacob from Airworks that I don't usually look at his website too regularly, but I know all the coffees that he's usually offering. So somebody had mentioned when we were talking about one half doing one of these Malaysian coffees, and I really gave it strong consideration, but they had so many wonderful offerings that I wasn't entirely sure this is the direction I wanted to go with purchasing from one half. These Gap coffees are also pretty interesting as well, but let's see if we can find that Windy Board coffee here real quick. And Misty Mountains, so that's I think the other one. And I'm wondering, this is sorted by best selling. I can't imagine that that was the one of the better selling coffees, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not seeing it on the website. What would be very interesting, and I've considered bringing this up to Jacob, is maybe doing some sort of collaboration for a coffee of the month, offering a number of the coffees that Airworks is bringing in as a coffee of the month offering, and then seeing which one wins the poll, and then picking that coffee out as the coffee of the month. But yeah, I don't see it. So I'm wondering if Jacob maybe pulled it or what the case is. See if maybe it's not in stock anymore. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and move on then. All right, next up we have, let's see here. Nero Scuro from Italy. And this one was suggested to us by Mayanne Barnum. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. I've never heard of this coffee roaster before, so we are in for something new. Nero Scuro coffee roasters. Does anybody have any familiarity with this coffee roaster? I don't think one half was on the September drop, maybe October. I'm getting our months confused because this upcoming month, so if this is August, then this is the month that they were releasing. I'm still kind of flipped around because we've got, I guess then technically this would have been the Terraform month. So if this is August, then September would have been the month after, right? Because I know it goes Terraform and then they're doing one half in Gout for the following month. I hope they have an English website for this. I do apologize for all the background noise. I wasn't expecting leaf blowers and dogs in the background today. All right, let's see what we have here. And we have quite a few more processed coffees. So they specifically pointed out the Chantilly coffees, and we do have a couple of those that could go along the lines of our themes of non-washed Ethiopian coffees. And I'll get to why that might be an option here in the near future. And I think I'll let Esmeralda anaerobic wash processed Colombian coffee. Okay. Why don't we take a quick look at these natural processed Ethiopian coffees? And this is a very heavy sounding coffee, red fruit, dark chocolate. That's what I always like to say when it comes to, they have a lot of advertisements on their website. Whenever you see those notes, then you know that that coffee is going to be pretty heavy in general. Here's the other one, but this one's a washed, and I'll kind of get into again later why we might not be looking at wash processed coffees too much. So this one sold out. It looks like the rest of these coffee offerings are sold out right here. Uh, Looks like they do skew a lot more in the heavier processed coffees. Let's see here. We can probably sort it through filter offerings. So it looked like a lot of the coffees they had were also filter offerings. Yeah, not entirely sure. Let's see here. Italian coffee. I mean, a lot of people haven't necessarily had the best results with Italian coffee. The Bougon coffee we had wasn't terrible, but I, for the most part, don't always have the best results with Italian coffee in general. Those advertisements keep popping up. I have seen this logo before. I think one of the European subscription services was offering a coffee from them relatively recently. Okay, let's go ahead and move on for right now. So this is the main reason why I've been looking at non-washed offerings is because Kevin V suggested non-washed Ethiopian or Kenyan coffees, and I imagine that that's going to be pretty easy to find. So I'm going to keep looking for non-washed Kenyan or Ethiopian coffees, but I haven't seen a lot of non-washed Kenyan coffees currently from the coffee roasters we've looked at. All right, let's move on. And next up, we have Instinto, and this was suggested to us by Pepe himself. And I still don't know if you can purchase Instinto's coffees outside of Ecuador yet. So I took a look at their website earlier today, and I might reach out to Pepe specifically and see if it's possible to purchase their coffees outside of Ecuador yet. But I'm still not entirely sure. So for anybody that's not familiar with Instinto, this is Pepe Ijon's coffee roaster. And I had an opportunity to try some of their samples a bit ago, and they were actually kind of nice. It was a little bit of a sneak peek into some of those coffees that Say was going to be offering. Pepe didn't tell me exactly what each coffee was until after I tried them, but I really liked them, and it was kind of interesting to compare them alongside of Say's offerings as well. So I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see. Plus one for Airworks collab. Next time I am speaking with Jacob, I'm going to bring up the subject because I'm sure he would also be very interested in doing some sort of collab as well. But yeah, I'm gonna reach out to Pepe on this one too because I'm still not entirely sure whether or not we can purchase these coffees yet. So let's go ahead and move on. Last time I tried to buy from Pepe, it was a 10 kg minimum. I have a feeling that I'm not going to be able to go through 10 kgs worth of coffee, so that might be a little tricky for me, but you never know. All right, Hunter with Holt suggested Hydrangia. So why don't we take a look at Hydrangia? And Hydrangia might be a little tricky because I do know that they changed their coffees on Monday. So they might have new coffees come tomorrow by the time that we would actually be posting the poll. And are they currently actually no. Okay. I have not looked at Hydrangea's website in a little bit, and I do know that it seems like they're working towards the Loring as opposed to the Probat, and they're working towards a lighter profile in their coffees as well. There's been a lot of discussion about Hydrangia, so why don't we take a quick look at what they are offering right now? And we have a coconut lemonade natural a Monte Blanco, and I feel like that's pretty similar to the coffee that we reviewed from Nomad last year. It was actually a nice coffee. I'm curious. I'm going to take a very quick look at this one, what the actual processing of it is. Is this an infused coffee? It sounds kind of interesting. Regardless, I kind of mentioned we're probably not going to go with the Colombian coffee. I just kind of want to take a look at it. Yeah. Coconut lemonade, co fermented natural. I'm very curious about how these coffees go. There are times where I would just like to try one cup or a sample of them and see how they turn out. Let's see what else Hydrangia has, though. Okay. And then we have these, let's see here, a couple of coffees from Pepe, it looks like. And then these are going to be our more standard coffees. So, of course, unwashed and discovery coffee. So, it doesn't look like anything. I'm still curious as to whether or not they might change come tomorrow to have something that's a little bit more out there. But it looks like we just have Colombian coffees for their processed coffees, and then everything else. We have a nice mix of things. I'm kind of curious about the mix of these other coffees as well. I'm sure I could find a couple of things that I would want to purchase from Hydrangia if they did win our Coffee of the Month poll. The tricky thing is they don't really have anything in line with our theme for this month yet. While we're at it, why don't I take a very quick look at Moonwake because I've been kind of curious what else they're offering. I have not heard as much about Moonwake's coffees recently because I don't think that they've had anything overly new or exciting very recently, I should say. I do keep pretty decent track of what Moonwake is offering. Here we go. So here's a naturally processed Ethiopian coffee. I have not heard a lot of feedback on this one yet. So this could be an option as well. I have heard a little bit of feedback about this coffee. It's been mostly pretty positive. So this is an option. If we're going with the natural processed Ethiopian coffees as our theme, then this one would be another option for us. It is the light profile though, so we don't have an ultra light on this one. All right. Let's see where we're at here. I have a bag of the Arbogona. It's good. Not blowing my socks off. That's good to know, TCM. Thank you. Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you here as well. And let's see here. I've got a dip since it's been a bit late. Have a good stream, Julian. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next suggestion. And this one's actually a fun one. So we have MinMax again. And if you were present for the stream last month, then we had a very quick discussion on MinMax Coffee, and I was a little bit confused by their website until I figured out who runs this business. And yeah, BK. So it's Brian. And for anybody that I don't think I've actually mentioned this before, I ran into Brian at a coffee shop one time and we did have about an hour-long discussion or so. So I do know Brian personally, and it is kind of funny that last month when we went through his website, I was like, really confused by the difference between Nordic Light and then we had the French roast because conventional wisdom for most people is that French roast is about as dark as possible and Nordic Light is about as light as possible. But since I know Brian and I know he's inspired pretty heavily by French coffee, most specifically Substance, then his perception of French coffee is that it's the lightest out there. So these are the lighter coffees, and these are technically the darker coffees. But I also know, given Brian's love for both Substance and the Picky Chemist, then he's not really going to do anything that's not ultra light. So why don't we take a quick look? Because there might be something from MinMax that we could use. And this could go to a fun theme because I keep wanting to do this kind of nano roasters theme where we have some really, really small coffee roasters in our coffee of the month poll. And I'm curious as to what he's currently offering. So we do have a Finca Soledad coffee. So we do have one of Pepe's coffees. And this one's a Sidra. So we have Jansen and we have this, let's see here, El Burro. I feel like you can probably tell what the origin is on these coffees, but not really listed on here. So yeah, I figured this one was going to be that Panamanian coffee. And we have this, of course, Kenyan coffee right here. And then we have these French roasts. So these are going to be the lighter ones. This was for the mystery coffee. That would be a fun one to actually review, is something that was featured for the mystery coffee. Let's see what else we have here. So I'm curious about this Kenyan coffee. I know it's going to be a washed, yeah, of course. So that would be good if we were doing a, well, washed Kenyan theme, but I wanted something natural for maybe a natural Kenyan theme. I know at some point we're probably going to review at least a couple of coffees from MinMax. Let's see here. This is the coffee. I think the first time I looked at them, I was most interested in reviewing this Bolivian coffee because I have been reviewing quite a few Bolivian coffees recently, or I'm going to be, and I like Bolivian coffees in general. Okay, so it doesn't look like anything here from MinMax. I'm guessing that Brian's probably going to do almost exclusively washed coffees because everything I see here is a washed coffee. But maybe in the future, if we are doing one of those kind of nano roasters options, then min-max is definitely something that we could explore. All right, let's see what we have next here. Okay. Coffee Wizard blog suggested Thankfully Coffee's Soledad Oxy Syndrome. And Thankfully Coffee has reached out to me a couple of times about this one. Uh, Thankfully Coffee. And I have not had this coffee from anybody yet. So that reminds me if we should take a look at another coffee roaster after we're done looking at this one here. Okay. So this is the coffee that they're mentioning, and it is an interesting coffee. I feel like maybe if we're going with some sort of Ecuadorian theme, though maybe people are sick of us reviewing so many Ecuadorian coffees, then this one would be a pretty good option. It sounds really nice. Love coffee cake, honey buns sounds interesting, very aromatic. I I do want to try this coffee. I'm not entirely sure what else we might be able to tack on from Thankfully Coffee right now. It looks like a little limited from what they have currently. If they had something else, maybe a natural Ethiopian or Kenyan coffee, then that might be a pretty good option to put those as the coffee of the month and then tack on the Finca Soledad coffee where it's to win the coffee of the month poll. But as of right now, I think that unless we're going with an Ecuadorian theme, I'm not entirely sure I can do something from Thankfully Coffee or this coffee. It's still interesting though, nonetheless. Well, let's check in what we got. The Thankfully Sidra is one of my least favorite pepes. That's interesting. That's very good to know, Nathan. Um, I was going to take a look at another coffee roaster. Let me take a look at Kevin's comment real quick. Tim Wendelboe is launching some interesting coffees from Africa in the coming weeks, as mentioned in the subscription video. That would be great. I would love to feature Tim Wendelboe as one of the coffees in our Coffee of the Month poll. And it goes back to what we did last year, where we kind of featured some of the most popular coffee roasters out there. So we had like Manhattan and we had Tim Wendelboe. I feel like that would be really good, especially if Tim Wendelboe does release something pretty interesting here. It looks like it's unfortunate timing, but maybe I'll revisit Tim Wendelboe because I don't think we've reviewed any of Tim Wendelboe's coffees this year. Let's see. Kevin says, I'm drinking the Citra Oxy from Manhattan right now, enjoying the Tipica Mejorado more. That's the coffee roaster I was going to take a look at next. And I'm hoping that they added something to their offerings recently, but I took a look at their website pretty recently and I didn't see anything overly exciting, but I could be wrong. Let's take a very quick look. So we do have their more standard offerings here. We have Shindisa. A lot of these coffees, as I've mentioned in the past, we've already reviewed. Ignacio I've had. Ucro, this is a wash, so I don't think I've had the Ucro a lot too from them. Diego Bermudez, Sticky, and then we've got the Silvio Roberto. Yeah, it looks like I'm kind of surprised. We have a lot more washed coffees than I do remember. Salma Bermudas, of course, we've got all the Bermudas coffees. See Jose Geraldo. There's their Pepe Gijon Sioxy. At some point, I feel like I'm going to need to review it from some coffee roaster. I'm just not entirely sure which coffee roaster. Conventional wisdom says Manhattan, since we've only reviewed one Manhattan in quite a while. So this might be a good option. We've got the Jose Gijon. That was also interesting that I think they're the only other coffee roaster right now that I can think of that has just Jose Gijon. And then this Paraiso Woosh Woosh, which is kind of interesting. And then a Gesha. So doesn't look like anything we could get from Manhattan currently. See, I'd love to try some European roasters, but I have a bit of a mental block getting stuff shipped to the United States. I'll just need to bum down my backlog and get several bags at once, I guess. That's true. There are some coffee roasters that ship from Europe that actually ship at very reasonable prices, and a lot of them that ship with free shipping as well, and very quick shipping. Obviously, I'm thinking of Coffea Circulor. So there are some good options out there. Tim Wendelboe, I know, had pretty cheap shipping, but I remember a lot of people were recently complaining about the increase in their shipping costs. I don't know how much it's increased. I just do remember that it was very cheap once upon a time. Manhattan Sioxy is better than Thankfully's. Okay, it sounds like you've had both, and I'm willing to try both. It's just getting an opportunity to try them. This coffee is really nice, actually, and it's kind of interesting. If you guys watch the blind taste test that we're going to have with Belaine, then it's kind of interesting where this coffee performs in that video. But as I'm drinking it today, this is the only other time I'm going to get an opportunity to try this coffee. It's actually very nice. Again, that's the Wilder Garcia washed Peruvian Gesha from Belaine Coffee Roasters. So I kind of want to take a look at them. I'll take a really quick look. Their shipping was a little expensive for anybody that's in the United States, but I have had pretty positive experiences with their coffees up to this point. And this is the coffee that I'm currently drinking for this video. I think all the coffees that are going to be featured in that video are now available on their website, but I'm not seeing anything on the more processed side of things. I think that they focus mostly on wash processed coffees because everything that we have in that sample pack is actually going to be a washed or this one red honey processed geisha. So they don't really have a lot of non-wash processed coffees. Nathan, if I want a sample of each, then you'd send me some. I might take you up on that offer. Does sound pretty interesting. I'm just very curious as to how those coffees would turn out because I think a lot of people have been pretty high on them, but I'm not entirely. I think a lot of people know that I'm not the biggest fan of Sidra coffees in general. Doc has some interesting coffees right now. Yeah, we'll take a look at Doc then real quick. TCM, not just the price, but also getting a single bag shipped across the world feels almost wasteful. I've heard that from people that feel the same way before. They don't like shipping all the way across if it just kind of means all the emissions that are involved in it too. So I understand that. Yeah, I definitely understand that. So there are some interesting coffees that are going to be released from places like Airworks. I don't know if that helps because they're going to be shipping it in bulk and mass. So you can purchase one or two off if you're interested. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at what Doc has. Doc always has a pretty extensive list of coffees. And I know Doc's extremely popular. I've never purchased directly from Doc because there are so many suppliers all over the United States that have Doc that it's pretty easy to purchase from them. How much is Doc shipping if anybody actually knows? Because again, I'm very curious. Never actually purchased directly from them. All right. So we have, let's see here. I've had bad experiences with SL28 Colombian coffees. Semi-washed Gesha. Let's see here. I'm assuming this one looks like, yeah, natural processed coffee. So we got this strawberry kiss, and this one could be an option if we're doing a natural processed Ethiopian theme from Rumudamo washing station. So that could be an option right now. I think if we're leaning towards the natural processed Ethiopian coffees, then we do have a second option right here. I think that's kind of the way I'm leaning right now. What else? I've seen this coffee in store a couple of times. Berry Boom. If we wanted to go pretty heavy with that, let's see here. I've tried the Botanica from Mallorca and it was amazing. Blueberry Bomb sounds interesting as a natural Ethiopia. Yeah, let's take a quick look at that one then. They do acknowledge that it is on the more funky side of things, so it tastes like frozen blueberries and yogurt and cream soda. I've had much more positive experiences with more processed coffees this year than I have pretty much any year that we've been reviewing coffees. So I think that I'm a little bit more open to trying something like this than I normally would be, but that's certainly an option, especially if it does have at least a little bit of clarity to it. We have a couple of natural Ethiopian coffees that we can go with. And I'm probably leaning towards this one because while the Strawberry Kiss sounds nice, I think this one just sounds a little bit more fun and out there. So that's an option. I appreciate the suggestion. Let's continue on. So I feel like there was another coffee roaster I wanted to look at, but let's take a very quick look at Coffea Circulor because if we're doing a natural processed Ethiopian theme, then we have to pick something from Coffea Circular, mostly because they're going to have so many options for us. I think that they're a little low on the Ethiopian, so this would probably be our option given that this is the only natural processed Ethiopian coffee that they currently have. Ascori, which is a very nice coffee in general from Yirgachev. And they do have a lot of heavier notes listed on here, but I do trust Coffea Circular, even though I've had I want to say slightly more mixed results with them this year than I have in the past. I still have a lot of optimism about this coffee. And the other reason why I wanted to go to a Coffea Circular real quick is because I wanted to pull up the Panamanian coffee that we'd also mentioned. Do they have? Oh, this Bishop is new. I think they have some new coffees I haven't seen in a bit. But I specifically wanted to pull up the other. They have a couple of geshes. Here we go. Uh, this is their washed Misty Mountain coffee. And as you can see here, it's 60 euros for 50 grams. So it's also pretty expensive, 115 euros for 100 grams. And I would very much like to try this coffee. If I was trying it from one coffee roaster, it would probably be from Coffea Circular. So this is something I would probably reach out to Ivica and ask some information about this coffee because I would love to try it. But that does give us a couple of options if we're going with natural processed Ethiopian coffees, because I would probably add this one to that coffee of the month poll. I don't think that they've added any Ecuadorian coffees. No. Oh, this one, Gatura washed. I can't remember if this is the one that we'd reviewed. We'd reviewed a serious coffee from them. I'm not sure if that's the same or not. And then they have this new Ribatian. So I'm getting sidetracked by Coffea Circular's offerings. I felt like if we were going to do a non-washed Kenyan offering, then Coffea Circular was also going to be featured in it because they have so many. We'll just pull it up this way. Kenyan coffees. How much is this one? That's not terrible. Let's see what the descriptors of this one are. It sounds like a isolated Marsh Canyon varietal. So very interesting there. Let's take a look at what Jerry's been saying. I have Blueberry Boom, Strawberry Kiss, and Fluffy Peach, but they are much more tame uh, in filter than in cupping. Could be my brewing issues. Yeah, that's interesting. That's good feedback. Of those coffees, though, which one do you prefer the most? So, which of those Ethiopian coffees is? I'm hoping it's the Blueberry Boom because once again, that's just maybe the most interesting sounding of those coffees. All right, let's continue on with the suggestions that we've had on Instagram. And what do we have next? So we got so sidetracked. Dendy Den says a matter of concrete. So let's take a look at a matter of concrete. And matter of concrete has been really popular. And we did review a couple of their coffees recently. And I didn't necessarily have the best experience with the most recent one because it turned out a little bit more developed than I was expecting. And that's been a lot of the feedback I've heard from a matter of concrete is that they are slightly more developed than I think a lot of people would probably expect from a Dutch coffee roaster. But this one right here, I heard a little bit about, and a matter of concrete shipping is pretty expensive. So that's the one downside to ordering directly from them. And there aren't as many American suppliers as I would like, but this coffee directly recommended to me. And I said, it's an interesting sounding coffee. It's a little pricey, but I would maybe be open to it. We have a Chinese geisha. Very interesting right there. And then let's see what else we have. So this one, I've heard that this was better than the Aki Bourbon coffee. And this is actually from a different producer, so disregard that altogether. If they do have a natural processed Ethiopian coffee, though, then we might be able to add them to the list of coffee roasters. They have a Gala Morales coffee, a washed Tipica. And I've been so confused recently as to whether or not a lot of these are actual Tipica coffees or if they're Tipica Mejorado coffees, because I've heard directly from Cafe in Porto that they actually don't have a Tipica, so anything they've been releasing that year was a Tipica Mejorado. But I saw a lot of coffee roasters listing it as just a Tipica. So I'm not entirely sure. And it could go either way, honestly. Let's take a look at comments. All right, Ian, let's see here. Hi, Julian. Thanks for the excellent stream. Very interesting to hear your feedback on different roasters. And this is kind of just like an open stream where I like to take a look at what coffee roasters are offering and just kind of give some feedback. So it's always nice that people do enjoy that. And I love hearing feedback from you guys as well because it does allow me to take a look at so many different coffee roasters. I've discovered so many things throughout these streams that's really helped narrow down coffee of the month coffees. So I every single time we've done one of these streams for the coffee of the month, you guys have done such an exceptional job of suggesting coffees to me that they've ended up being our coffee of the month every time. So I'm hoping that we have the same results with this one. This is interesting. This could be an option, but it looks like they only have an espresso roast for it, which is kind of unfortunate. I do imagine we're probably going to be reviewing some more coffees from A Matter of Concrete eventually. At some point, this is the other coffee that we'd reviewed from them. It's just a matter of obtaining them, mostly because they have very interesting coffees. All the time I look at their websites, they just have interesting coffees. So definitely a possibility in the future. All right, Jerry says the blueberry boom is cleaner than I expected. That's very good. Okay. So I think that kind of solidifies what we're going to do. I think we're going to go with a natural processed Ethiopian theme. And I think we're going to include the blueberry boom. I think we're going to include the natural from Coffea Circulor. And I know there was one natural we were looking at to start this stream. Let me take a very quick look back through the comments because there was one that I thought was pretty interesting here. Oh, the one from Botz. So if that's the case, if that's what we decide on, then I'm going to release the poll today, which is probably a lot quicker than I would normally release the poll, just so we can have that taken care of. Let's see here. In Chicago, I was in Chicago and recently got to try metric coffee for the first time. I was impressed with the washed Ethiopians they had on pour over. I see they have a natural Ethiopian on their website. All right, perfect. See, this is great. And I appreciate that, Ian, because they are still on our suggestions recommendations list, and I've been trying to review them. They have also struggled to win our Coffee of the Month polls. I think they've been featured in two of them, and they lost both of those Coffee of the Month polls. Great. And I assume it's going to be this one right here. This one's a washed. Let's see here. Filter offerings. I am not seeing their natural processed Ethiopia. Here we go. So yeah, this would probably be this is our fourth option. So at the very least, we have four options for sure that we might be going with. And let me take a look at what the descriptor on this one is. I've looked at Metric quite a bit. I'm just not as familiar with their website as I am with others. It sounds like natural Ethiopian coffee. I'm going to take a very quick look at what else they have. I'm hoping that they still have that Honduran coffee I've been interested in for a very long time. I just haven't had an opportunity to purchase it because, again, they never win our Coffee of the Month polls. I don't see it, so I think it's gone. That's unfortunate. Okay, so we have at least four. So this is going to be now trying to decide which coffees we might prefer to these as our Coffee of the Month poll nominee. All right, let's see what Kevin says. Prologue is also a nice Nordic roaster. No idea how their shipping works. There is a coffee shop nearby that actually uses Prologue as their mainstay. So it's entirely possible for me to get Prologue pretty easily if that's what we go with. Let's take a look. I've tried a couple of coffees from Prologue, and this is actually a different coffee roaster. Prologue. There we go. I haven't had the best experience from them yet, but it's entirely possible that that could change if we do a full review. Deny. Let's see. So many advertisements on these websites. Colombian, El Salvador. So this one we have washed. So I'm not seeing any. Make sure we're in the coffee bean section. I'm not seeing a natural processed Ethiopian yet. So unfortunately, nothing from them. But I'll keep an eye out on something. I can't remember. I don't think that they're actually on our suggestions recommendation list yet, but like I said, have had an opportunity to try some of their coffees. Let's move on to McStutter. McStutter says Loquat has some interesting coffees. So let's take a look at Loquat. And for anybody that does not know, this is Kumquat's roastery. And we have purchased from Kumquat a couple of times in the past. Let's see here. Including the coffees that were featured in our Korean blind taste test video. they were purchased from this coffee roaster. Okay, so this one's a wash, unfortunately. They do have, it looks like some interesting Panamanian coffees here. This is a very interesting one. Esmeralda SL34 Natural. I wonder what the descriptors are. Sounds a little heavy, but it's an SL34 from the Peterson family. While we're at it, for anybody that's not seen it, I'm very excited about this coffee. So this one right here is from the Esmeralda, I guess the Peterson farm as well. This is a Ethiopian landrace coffee, and it's from Panama, and I'm super excited about that coffee. And I've said in the past that I absolutely love reviewing lighter profiled Panamanian coffees that aren't geishas. That one excites me so much. And for anybody that's curious, this is from Weston Gopi. We could take a look at Weston Gopi's website after this one, but seeing this reminded me of this coffee right here because I'm still letting it rest and I'm still very excited. It's going to be featured in one of our blind taste test videos featuring Weston Gopi here in the near future, but that's a very exciting coffee. This one's very interesting. Even though it sounds a little heavier, I think I'd be willing to try it mostly because of how rare it is to find an SL34. I don't think I've ever seen one from the Peterson family, so I would be very curious about that coffee. That kind of leads to trying to find something from them that we could feature in our Coffee of the Month poll. And is this Gesture Village a natural? It's a carbonic maceration. So it's technically not a washed coffee. We could technically feature this one then in the Coffee of the Month poll. So you know what? I'm going to nix one of the coffees that we have as an option, and I'm going to substitute it for this one. Oh, so I guess I've been kind of monologuing. So let's see what you guys might have said. Think they had a cabeza natural, but it's sold out. Okay, Kevin. Thanks for that information. So yeah, it looks like unfortunately we won't have anything from Prologue as of this moment. But with you guys, between the three options that we have right now, what would you prefer? Would you prefer the coffee from Loquat, this Gestra Village? Would you prefer the coffee from Coffea Circulor, that natural processed Ethiopia, or would you prefer the coffee from Metric? Like one of these, I need to kind of nix off the list because I'm not going to get rid of the one from Botz, and there was one more I think that I wasn't going to get rid of. Oh, the one from Doc. I feel like those two are pretty solid. Like I'm going to stick with both of those in the Coffee of the Month poll. But I feel like I could kind of nix one of these from the list. So if it was up to me, I think once again I would probably nix the Coffea Circular coffee because we've reviewed so many other coffees this year. But kind of let me know what you guys might think on that. The turtle from Paris says 3 Gesher Village offerings, natural and a honey. I've not had a good carbonic maceration yet. You and I both, honestly, but given the other offerings that Loquat does have, I just kind of want to purchase from them. I assume that they might be similar to their uh, their Kumquat website, where if you purchase $100 worth, they might have free shipping. And this one sounds interesting. This one probably sounds pretty nice too. It's yeah, another Peterson coffee, and it's just a Gesha, 60 grams. So I would probably need to purchase two of these to kind of get to that minimum review amount, but that's entirely an option. All right, we'll take a look at Deterra real quick. And a couple of Gesher Village coffees. That does remind me. I looked at them very recently. That does remind me that we could also look at Substance. I'm sure a lot of people would be very excited to have Substance featured as one of our coffees of the Coffee of the Month. All right. Hmm. I'm gonna ask for any idea in these if anybody's tried either of these and has any idea which ones they prefer. I do want to try this coffee roaster mostly because, as you can see here, they have some really high-end and nice offerings in general. I do wonder if maybe this might be a little expensive for a lot of people to purchase and also do a coffee of the month, but let's see what they have here. I do usually prefer Ethiopians that have maybe more of the darker berry characteristics of the blueberries as opposed to the red fruits. So I might prefer this one right here, the 24098, as opposed to this one. We might skip the honey processed coffee because I mean we're probably doing a little bit more heavier processed ones this time around. So this one, if I was picking for myself, I'd probably lean towards this one. But as of right now, between these two, we're probably doing the 24098. JBC has a 72-hour extended fermentation Yairo Chirico. Maybe not the most exciting pick, though. We have featured JBC in one of our Coffee of the Month polls in the past. I don't think it necessarily did overly well. I would like to feature JBC. I think they're actually on our suggestion recommendation list, even though I have really extensive familiarity with them. Shout outs to Brian, who used to supply me with endless samples of JBC's really weird out there coffees. I want to say that was like 8, 9 years ago at this point. So, have you heard of Liquid Dreams coffee before? I have never heard of Liquid Dreams coffee. So, if you have more information about that, I'd be very curious. Now I'm thinking if we might substitute one of the other coffees for this Datura coffee, though I think the price tag might be a sticking point for a lot of people. Hmm. I personally would like to try this coffee roaster, though. I'll keep that in the back of my mind for right now. Let's move on to the next suggestion that we did have. So we'll go back here. And this will be interesting. So we have coffees from Say. So a lot of people were suggesting Say, and then I actually prefer not to put Say in any of our coffee of the month polls because Say always wins our coffee of the month poll and it's never close. And it seems almost unfair that they're featured in our coffee of the month poll. I think luckily for me, they don't have any non-washed Ethiopian coffees. Both of them, the Worka and the Karamo, are washed. And I think do they still have Rumudamo? So Rumudamo is sold out. They had it yesterday when I took a look at their website, but it's no longer available. This coffee, if I was purchasing from, say, right now, this is the coffee I'd be most interested in because I had the, was it the Jose Caro? Yeah, this one right here earlier this year, and it's still one of my favorite Colombian coffees we've reviewed this year, right up there with the one that we had from Bell Lane, funny enough. So both of these coffees are interesting to me, but this one, since we had that Jose Caro, I'm very curious about this Chiroso as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to purchase it, though. It seems unlikely. And I keep hearing the Servio Botina. People really like this coffee, didn't they? I've had a sample of this from other coffee roasters. I've not had it from Say, but people keep talking about this coffee, so I imagine it's actually pretty good if that's the case. Let's see here. I've had a bag of the Matura resting. Excited about that one. Maruta resting. It's hard to see on the very small screen. I have a bag of Mara resting. I'm excited about that one. See here. It's a very new roaster in Cologne, doing very high-end coffees. And I can't remember who exactly it was that suggested that coffee roaster to me, referencing Datura. So, oh no, Liquid Dreams. Liquid Dreams coffee roaster out of Cologne. So we'll take a look at that one. But while we're looking at Say real quick, yeah, the Servia Botina has been so highly suggested from so many people that I wish I hadn't reviewed so many Pink Bourbon Colombian coffees this year because this is yet another one. But if it's really that exciting, then it might be an opportunity for us to try it. But Howard's the one that suggested this. He also suggested the Rumudamo, but the Rumudamo is gone for right now. Right. Why don't we take a very quick look at Liquid Dreams? This stream might go over a little bit actually because is it Liquid Dreams typed in a T? Because we've been looking at so many coffees that we've gone a little bit over. All right. Well, since we're looking at Ethiopian coffees for coffee of the month, let's take a look at their processed coffees. And okay, so looks like we have quite a few Colombian coffee. Seems to be the trend right now. It's really hard to read their websites. We don't have origin on there, but you can probably assume based off most of them. So yeah, a lot of Ethiopian, correction, Colombian coffees. Bourbon. What is this one right here then? Yeah, Colombian. Colombian coffees right now are everywhere. It would be very easy to do a well, it'd be very easy to find coffees for a Colombian coffee, but it wouldn't be easy to narrow it down. All right. Cedar Typica Mejorado Anaerobic Natural. So these are sold out. We have a washed coffee right here. I wonder what I would be interested in purchasing from them. Just so many heavier processed Colombian coffees that it would be interesting kind of narrowing down between all of the different heavier processed coffees that they have, which one would be most interesting to me. I'd have to take a thorough look at this coffee roaster. I might do so after the stream. All right, let's see where we're at right now. I really like Servio's slightly preferred Flower Child over Say. So Nathan, that's the one I actually had was Flower Child's version of it. So I did receive a sample of it, and I thought it was nice. I think the big issue I've been having with these pink bones is so many of them are Kenyan-like, and I mean we've reviewed so many of them that it's kind of tricky to decide which one like, stands out, and that's why the one from Bell Lane stood out the most because that one was the most Ethiopian-like. It was very peachy, and that's why I enjoyed Bell Lane so much was that coffee specifically, but once again, I'm drinking a coffee from Bell Lane. Their coffees have been just really nice in general. Significantly lighter than what you might expect from an Irish coffee roaster. Adam, I just brewed some Rumudamo, waiting for it to cool. Is it the one from Say then? I assume it's the one from Say. And for anybody that doesn't know, Airworks did Rumudamo from Terraform as the washed coffee for their subscription this month. And I did have a conversation with Jacob about it. Given how popular and how much Rumudamo was enjoyed last year, that's the one I suggested to him. So I'm glad he took me up on that suggestion. I am going to be working on that one as well. So we do have at least one Rumudamo, even if it's not from Say. I do wonder how it compares to Say, so it's unfortunate that maybe I didn't get an opportunity to try that one. All right, let's move on to our next suggestion. We have still a couple of suggestions. So, Luna, let's take a look at Luna. And I think I saw a comment this morning from somebody that said that Luna hasn't actually released coffees in a while. And if that's the case, then it's going to be tricky finding something from them. And looks like we might just have one coffee, which is this pink bourbon. And we have a espresso offering, but yeah, this pink bourbon from Colombia. I think maybe they took a little bit of a break. Sometimes they do that. So it doesn't look like we would be able to pick anything from Luna in our coffee of the month pool, but as a coffee roaster, I'd really like to revisit. It has been a while since we've had one of their coffees. This was from Josiah David Miller, by the way. And the next coffee roaster he suggested was Have Fun. I've never heard of this coffee roaster before. I did look at them beforehand because I was kind of curious to see what they might have. I took a very quick glance, but maybe if they have some sort of natural Ethiopian offering. All right. This is a blend, it looks like. Can't complain. Coffees are interestingly labeled here. Potions. We have quite a few Colombian coffees. This one right here, I'm going to guess, is a washed coffee, medium light. Okay, looks like they omni roast everything. Everything says filter and espresso. Kind of curious about the profile of this coffee roaster. It doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary. It looks like some pretty, I don't want to say standard, but what you would expect from a lot of coffee roasters right now. A lot of these Colombian coffees, and then we have a washed Kenyan coffee. We do have one of Wilton Benitez's coffees though. And then the last suggestion was Epoch. Never heard of this coffee roaster. I'm gonna guess it's this one right here. It's just a guest coffee roaster is Corvus from Colorado. That's interesting. All right. But I'm guessing that this is the coffee roaster. I'm guessing that they are roasting their own. I could have this wrong though. We have a washed Sidra right here. Yeah, we have an Immaculata Gesher right here. I'm gonna take a very quick look at this one, even though it won't be our coffee of the month nominee. It is an anaerobic natural processed coffee. Let's see how heavy it sounds. It doesn't sound quite as heavy. And then I think I saw, yeah, in Ethiopia, this one right here. It's a washed and Ketwai washed. Oh, I would really like to review this coffee. It's unfortunate that we don't have anything from them that could be featured in our coffee of the month poll, but once again, we have a non-Gesha washed Panamanian coffee. So this is a coffee that, once again, I would like to purchase. All right. Let's continue on. And then Caleb Benton suggested Botz. So Botz right now seems like it's going to be one of our coffee of the month nominees. And once again, I still need a little bit of feedback from you guys as to which coffees we should do as our coffee of the month nominee, because we have 5 options right now. Let me see if I have this correct. We have the one from Botz. We have the one from Coffea Circulor, which was natural Ethiopia. We have the one from Doc, the blueberry bomb, I want to say it was called. We have the one from Metric, and then there was one more I was looking at that right now it's eluding me. When you go through so many coffees, it's hard to keep track of exactly which ones you've looked at. All right, and then Alan Doa suggested the Talila from Flower Child. We'll take a look at it. I know that that one's a washed. We haven't reviewed Flower Child in a little bit. Flower Child's come up quite a bit in this stream. Is it? There it is. Okay, I was wondering if it was gone. Jose Flores Churro. So, and that's what I like about Flower Child is that they do offer mostly washed coffees. I don't. I think they've had one natural processed coffee for as long as they've been around that I remember. It sounds very nice. I would love to have an opportunity to just try this coffee because it does sound quite nice in general. I think this is the only coffee they've recently added. I do monitor them pretty regularly because I would like to revisit them at some point. All right, let's take a look here. Ian, Bell Lane has certainly improved their offerings in the last couple of years and are one of the best roasters in Ireland. Their coffees are highly rated by many of the coffee shops around Dublin. I can see why. I actually really like them. And even though the shipping is a little expensive to the United States, it's entirely possible that if they have some very interesting coffees in the future, we might just purchase and review those because of how positive of an experience we've had with a lot of their coffees. All right. And let's move on. I think we just have a couple of suggestions left. So we had from Burnt Turd a suggestion for say Rumudamo. And as I kind of mentioned, that's the coffee roaster that well, that's the coffee that's no longer available from say, so we can't do that one anyway. And it is a wash processed Ethiopian coffee. But that does narrow it down. So I think we have our nominees in general, which is perfect timing because we're about at that hour mark for the stream. So let me see if I can solidify what we had real quick. We had once again, the coffee from Botz. So we'll take a look at Botz again real quick, and I'll let you know which one it was from Botz that I was leaning towards. If we are going to do it, then I'm going to release the poll probably sometime today so that we would have an opportunity to purchase it. We'll need to be very quick because I assume that whichever of these natural processed Ethiopian coffees we go with, it's going to sell out pretty quick. As you can see, it's being released on the 13th. So on, I guess that would be Tuesday. And that way, if we post the poll today and they win the poll by Monday, then we would have an opportunity to be there right at 10 Central Standard Time to purchase this coffee. But we were leaning towards the Mate Matiwos right here, even though, yeah, that's probably the one that we would lean towards. And then I would probably end up purchasing this Dunkin' Lot for myself because it sounds, I mean, it's got a Baja Blast note, and I love Baja Blasts. That's entirely an option. Let's see what else we had. So next, I know this was an option, the coffee from Coffea Circulor. And then, yeah, this one over here, the Escori. It's being sold only in 100 grams. I wonder, because I would love to get that one in 250, of course. So that's our second option. And then we had the one from Metric. I have a hard time believing that the one from Metric would actually win the Coffee of the Month poll, mostly because of the coffee roasters they're going up against. I would still like to review Metric, so I would like for them to win the poll so we can finally review them, but I just have a hard time believing that they would win the poll. Got Pluot, Pomelo, Cyrex. I imagine that that Coffee of the Month poll, Bots would completely dominate that poll because people are very excited about those coffees and people have been very excited about bots in general. So I think that they would be pretty big favorites, even with a place like Coffea Circulor in that as well. And then there was one other coffee, so the one from Doc. And I know I'm missing one coffee, but it was the Blueberry Bomb. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, Doc could win. People really like Doc, so there were a couple of heavy hitters in it. It just seems like Metric is probably the least popular of those four coffee roasters, even if they might be the one that I would want to win the most. So yeah, Blueberry Bomb or Boom. That's why I keep saying it wrong. I'm guessing Tim Wendelboe doesn't have the coffees released on their website yet. Just their standard offerings currently. Okay. So it looks like those are going to be our four for the Coffee of the Month poll. I'm going to stick around for the next, I guess, just a couple of minutes or so in case anybody has any additional questions while we're on stream. But otherwise, that's probably what we're going to go with as our theme. Thanks again to you guys for helping me narrow down the suggestions on this as well. Let me scroll back through this and see if there was maybe a coffee that I had missed. Okay, great. And it's 11 o'clock, so I think right here I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. Let's see here. We have a couple of comments now. Did you check out Wes and Gopi's offerings? Actually, I didn't. That was one thing I was going to do real quick. Frozen blueberry yogurt, though I'd vote for that. All right. Take a look at Wes and Gopi real quick on Google. You know what was really unfortunate about Wes and Gopi is that they released a coffee after I purchased from them that I really, really want. I think it was an Altieri Gesha. So it's pretty cheap to purchase from Wes and Gopi, actually. They ship pretty cheap. So this is the coffee that I wanted to purchase from them. I really want to try this coffee. Unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to purchase it since it was released after I had already purchased from them. But I know that they do have some non-washed offerings, mostly because I do have one of their non-washed Ethiopian offerings currently. For anybody that's not familiar with this coffee roaster, they do have some very interesting and exciting coffees as well. So right here, they have a yellow honey processed Mejorado coffee. They have some coffees from Diego Bermudez, some Nestor Lasso coffees. Like a lot of these coffees I've never seen in offered by American coffee roasters or even European coffee roasters. So for anybody that's interested, check out this coffee roaster. As mentioned, the shipping on here is pretty cheap. You actually get free shipping after a certain amount as well. All right, and I like how we've reached our peak viewership for this stream right now, just as we're about to end stream. But yeah, I guess we will end the stream right here. We do have our coffees for the Coffee of the Month poll. So I'm going to be posting the poll today, just so we can see if Botz wins, whether or not we can purchase that coffee when it is released. So thank you to everybody for participating in the stream, and we will be back next month to do our Coffee of the Month poll nominees for the month of September. All right, everybody, have a good day.